Hey everyone, and welcome back to Path of Exile 2. In today's video, I'm testing something I've really been curious about. How profitable is farming Xesht Tier 4 Twisted Domains? I ran 144 of them, which at the time of recording is worth around 100 Divine Orbs and Breachstones. So the big question is, can we actually make our currency back, or even turn a profit from this massive run? We're running this with the Tempest Flurry Madness build, stacked with 130% item drop rarity. It was perfect for fast clears. If you haven't seen the full build guide yet, the link is in the description. It covers everything you need to set it up from budget to end game. And here's the fun part, we're not just showing drops. At the end of the run, we're crafting every breach ring we collected to see if we can hit something crazy or valuable enough to make it all worth it. We're skipping the boring grind and jumping straight into highlights, juicy loot, and that ultimate crafting moment. Let's see if this gamble pays off. Before we jump into crafting the breach rings, let's take a quick look at the loot and do a rough calculation, since crafting will definitely burn through some of our currency. As you can see, we've ended up with nearly 3 full stash tabs of breach rings. Each clean ring like the ones we have here is typically worth around 40 Exalted Orbs, if we ignore the usual few underpriced ones at the top of the trade list that never actually sell. With around 410 rings total, that brings us to roughly 16,000 Exalts, which converts to about 37 Divine Orbs. That's just the base value if we sold them as is, but we're not stopping there. Now let's quickly go through the rest of the loot we picked up during the run. We got 4 Divine Orbs directly, plus 30 Chaos Orbs, which is roughly another Divine. So that's 5 Divines total in raw currency. I won't count the smaller currencies to keep things simple. Next, we have 2 level 20 Spirit Gems, and each of those is worth about 6 Divines. So that's 12 more added, bringing the total to 17. Then we've got 8 copies of Hands of Wisdom in Action, each worth around 3 Divines unveiled, which gives us 24 more. As for the controlled Metamorphosis items, we gathered 10 of them. Some were valued at 10 Divines, others around 1 Divine, so on average, I calculated them together at about 27 Divines total. In addition to that, we also picked up a few valuable helmets. Nothing too crazy, but we can safely add around 2 Divines worth there. On top of that, we now have 4 full stash tabs of catalysts. I'm not going to calculate every stack since prices vary, but let's say around 2 more Divines just to round it up, and we'll likely use them during the crafting anyway. Plus, we found some solid rare gear along the way that can be sold for extra profit later on. So if we total it all, 37 Divines from the breach rings, 5 from raw currency, 12 from Spirit Gems, 24 from Hands of Wisdom, 27 from Controlled Metamorphosis, 2 from Helmets, and 2 from Catalysts. That puts us right around 109 Divine Orbs in total value from this run, before selling the gears. So now, just to summarize, this run cost us around 100 Divine Orbs, and we got back roughly 109 in total value, plus some decent gear to sell. That gives us a small profit of 9 Divines. But honestly, the gear we picked up could have easily come from regular maps or other activities. So, was it really worth it? Personally, I'd say, not really. It took a lot of time to farm all these twisted domains, and in the end, the profit just didn't feel rewarding enough. I even fell asleep mid-grind and died twice. Yep, my death count is now up to 12. Sad times. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. Now it's time for the fun part. Let's move on to crafting these breach rings and see what kind of magic or disaster we can create. This is also a great opportunity to share knowledge and ideas together. As I go through my crafting strategy, feel free to share any tips or suggestions you have in the comments. Let's help each other get the most out of these rings and maybe even craft something insane. And before we dive into the crafting, if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me keep making more content like this. All right, let's get into it. So here's the crafting strategy I've been using. I'm not trying to hit a mirror tier ring or anything crazy, and that's because going for mirror tier gear is incredibly expensive. Unless you're already rich, you might end up wasting all your currency chasing perfection. Sometimes, even with a solid strategy, bad luck can completely ruin your investment and leave you with nothing. That's why my focus is simply on getting the best possible value out of each breach ring. Now back to the actual crafting. I like to start with Essence of the Infinite as a base. It's a much safer option. You're guaranteed something usable even if it doesn't hit a top tier roll. Lightning Essence is also a great option, but it can roll some less useful stats, so I usually stick to attribute-focused crafting. I Essence craft all the rings and set aside the ones that land high-tier attributes. Then I apply Augmentation Orbs to fill in the second mod. If a ring rolls a high-tier attribute and a strong second stat, that's when I bring in a Greater Essence of the Infinite to try and secure a third high-value stat. If that hits, you've got a ring that could easily be worth a few Divine Orbs. I might also use catalysts to boost the influence of specific stats. And for the rest of the rings that don't quite hit the mark, I finish them off with Regal Orbs, and eventually Exalted Orbs, to round out all the mods. Once that's done, I go over all the results. Some rings are ready to sell, others might need improvement, and a few could even be jackpots. That's when I look at using omens. But use them wisely. Only commit omens to rings that truly deserve it, because the cost of good omens can easily outweigh the value of a mediocre ring if the gamble doesn't pay off. After we finally craft a good ring that's worth selling, there's one last important step, playing it smart with catalysts. This part is all about recognizing the ring's strength. For example, if it rolls high attribute stats, you'll want to push those even further by applying the right catalyst, like attribute-based ones. This isn't just about raw power. It's a huge help when it comes to visibility on trade sites. People often filter for high-value rolls they want, and if your ring has those stats boosted, it's more likely to appear at the top of search results, giving it better exposure and a much higher chance of being sold fast and for a good price. As for the leftover rings, if I see any potential in them, I'll just throw some Chaos Orbs and see if they roll into something usable. Sometimes a lucky Chaos can turn a mediocre ring into a solid one worth selling. And that's my simple strategy for crafting, aiming for solid value without wasting mush currency. Now let's jump into the next patch and craft some rings together. Let's see what we hit. All right, first up, I'm going to pick out the clean breach rings from the loot we collected earlier. Now, let's move them over to our crafting stash to begin the work. Then I'm starting by applying Essence of the Infinite to all the rings. This gives us a guaranteed attribute mod and helps set a solid base for the next steps. Now I'm moving aside the rings that hit high-tier attribute mods. We'll give those special treatment in the next steps. Next, I'm using Orb of Augmentation on all the rings to add a second random mod and see if we get something valuable to build on. Now, I'm sorting through the rings with high mods to see which ones are strong enough to justify using the expensive Greater Essence of the Infinite. And as you can see, this one with high cold damage and another with strong evasion rolls are definitely worth the cost of the Greater Essence. Now, let's give them some attribute catalyst to boost their core stats. This will also improve our chances of getting better rolls. All right, let's quickly grab the 2 Greater Essences of the Infinite and see if we can hit something really powerful on these rings. All right, that's not bad. Looks pretty promising so far. Now, let's go ahead and use Regal Orbs on the rest of the rings and see what we will have. Okay, time to use the Exalted Orbs. Fingers crossed we hit something juicy. All right, now it's time to go through the rings one by one. Let's see which ones are ready to sell, which need a bit more work, and which ones, well, are just total garbage. This one's got low chaos, low evasion, and a bit of accuracy. Honestly, nothing really interesting here. Just some dexterity, nothing more. Let's toss it down into the garbage corner down here. All right, let's move on to this one. It actually looks like it has some potential. We've got decent flat physical damage and a solid intelligence roll. Let's toss a few Chaos Orbs on it and see if we can upgrade it into something better. Wow, we just hit a high-tier mana roll, and that pairs perfectly with the mana regeneration and mana gained on kill. This could be a huge mana ring for any build that relies on sustain. Let's throw on some mana catalysts and max it out. I think it has some value now. Okay, now we're already reaching Divine Orb pricing even without the catalysts. This one turned out way better than expected. Let's go ahead and list it for 25 divines for now. I don't want to waste your time during the video, so I'll revisit the pricing and double check everything after the recording. But for now, that's what comes to mind. Now, let's take a look at this one. It's got flat cold and lightning damage, solid mana, and some decent dexterity and intelligence. Honestly, it's looking pretty good already. Let's go wild here and remove the low fire resistance mod. Maybe we'll get lucky and hit strength or even all attributes. Fingers crossed. And this is also a great opportunity to get an idea about using omens if you're not familiar with them. In this case, fire resistance was the lowest value stat on the ring, so using an Omen of Whittling is our best option. It specifically targets the weakest mod and replaces it, giving us a real shot at something like strength or all attributes. Finger crossed. Oh, baby, now we are talking. Let's throw some attribute catalysts on it to boost those stats even further and give it a better shot. I'm not exactly sure how much it's worth right now, so let's just list it for 200 divines as a placeholder. We'll revisit the price later and adjust it properly. Now, let's take a look at this one. High tier evasion, solid strength, and strong lightning and fire resistances. This one definitely looks like a great ring with a lot of potential. We might want to lower that lightning resistance modifier a bit. Let's place it for now, and I will reprice later to not waste time here. Now let's check that one. Looks like a 1 divine as is. Alright, this one's got nothing that really stands out. No synergy, nothing worth saving. Straight to the junk pile it goes. This one actually looks like it has some potential. Solid flat damage, good mana, and dexterity. The cast speed mod doesn't add much value here, so we might try replacing it later. I'll set this one aside for some extra work after the recording. For now, I'll list it at around 4 divines. It might already be worth something, and I will adjust the price once I take a closer look. Alright, this one looks like a 1 divine ring. Nothing too crazy. This one isn't looking too great. Feels incomplete, especially with that awkward accuracy roll. Let's toss a few Chaos Orbs at it and see if we can turn it into something better. Alright, it's actually looking a bit better, especially with that chaos resistance now in play. I'll list it for 2 divines for now and see how it goes. Could definitely catch someone's interest. This one's not amazing, but could be usable. I'd say it's fair to list it for 1 divine and see if it grabs any attention. I just realized we forgot to catalyze the last few rings, so let's quickly take care of that. And this is a great opportunity to show you how I decide which catalyst to use based on each ring's strengths. So the way I decide which catalyst to use really comes down to 2 things. First, I look at what the highest value mod on the ring is. If there's a really strong stat, I'll use a catalyst that boosts it to squeeze even more value out of it. But the other strategy is looking for synergy. If a catalyst can affect 2 or 3 mods at once, that's a great way to get the most out of that 50% bonus. That's why for this ring, I chose Lightning Catalysts. And this one, the same thing, I will also go with Lightning. Now for this one, there's not much variety in the modifiers, so I'm going with the highest value, which in this case is evasion. Boosting that stat should give the ring a bit more weight and make it more appealing overall. Here, we could go with either attack or attribute catalysts. So let's take a closer look. And as you can see, the attack modifiers clearly have more value in this case. So we're going to go ahead and apply attack catalysts to get the best out of this ring. This one's pretty similar. Evasion stands out as the highest value stat here, so we're going to go with Defense Catalyst to push that even further. And for the last one, Mana seems like the best choice here, so we'll go ahead and use Mana Catalyst to boost its value. All right, let's return these rings back to the stash for now. I'll go through and price them properly later. For now, let's continue and see what else we've got. This one has solid mana and really nice mana regeneration. Definitely promising for a strong, mana-focused ring. Plus, it comes with good cold resistance, so we could definitely push this one further. All right then, I'll go ahead and put it up for 1 Divine. Feels like a fair price. Let's see what else we have. Okay, this one's actually looking solid. Good chaos damage, nice evasion, and decent attributes. I think the best move here is to push those attributes further with some catalysts and bring out its full potential. Maybe 3 Divines is fair enough. This one has solid evasion and some item rarity, not much else. Let's boost the evasion with a catalyst and list it for 1 Divine for now. This one looks pretty solid. Good mana, evasion, lightning damage, and lightning defense, plus a bit of intelligence and item rarity. Some of the rolls are low, but overall, it's a well-rounded ring with nice value. We can push this one even further by using Lightning Catalyst to scale both the lightning damage and resistance. That'll give it more impact. Let's put it up for 2 Divines and see how it does. And let's quickly say hello to Mist. Thanks for dropping by. Always nice to see fellow fans of the channel hanging out during the grind. All right, let's take a look at this ring. It has some fine stats, but nothing too exciting yet. So let's throw a Chaos Orb at it and see if we can clean up those low rolls or maybe hit something better. Well, that went downhill fast. It's now total garbage. Straight to the junk pile it goes. Same thing. This one isn't looking too great either. Let's throw a few Chaos Orbs here as well. Beside your brother. Not good. Same. Let's check that one. Not good. Let's chaos it and see if luck's on our side. Okay, now we're talking. Let's take a closer look and see what we've got here. All right, we've got some good flat lightning damage, a bit of rarity, mana regeneration, and dexterity. Plus, we've got all elemental resistances and a touch of fire damage. Would have been even better with cold or flat elemental damage, but at least we have something now. Let's go ahead and push the lightning modifiers further, which will also boost all elemental resistances along the way. Nope. Nope. All right, let's take a look at this one. It actually looks quite nice at first glance. We've got max evasion, huge mana, high rarity, and really solid fire resistance. The only thing missing are 2 low attribute rolls, which we might even be able to fix with an omen. For content's sake, I'll continue crafting it with omens, but to be honest, price-wise it may not be worth much since it lacks strong attack mods. Still, let's keep going and see how far we can take it. And if you're not too familiar with omens, here's a quick explanation. Since both of these unwanted mods are suffixes, we have a few options. We could use an omen that removes a suffix with an orb of annulment, or another that does it using a chaos orb. But in our case, since the 2 attributes are also the lowest mods on the ring, the best choice is the same omen we used earlier, one that targets and removes the lowest modifier. It's cheaper and more reliable because it directly focuses on the stats we don't want, instead of accidentally removing something valuable like the fire resistance in our case. The other omens are useful if the attributes aren't the lowest mods, but still not the ones you want to keep. Now, as you can see, we're directly removing the lowest mod here, which is all attributes. Sadly, the outcome didn't go our way. It replaced the stat with another bad one. But the good news is it's still a low-tier modifier, so we can remove it again. This could have been much worse if it rolled a high-tier stat we didn't want, because that would block the omen from targeting it next time. All right, now we've got mana regeneration, which is actually fine. It'll scale up nicely once we apply the mana catalyst, since it works alongside the flat mana. So now, let's target the last low modifier and try to replace it for an even better roll. All right, let's first check how much value we're talking about now. As I mentioned earlier, I'm continuing this mainly for the content, to show you how the crafting process unfolds, especially if you want to keep pushing a ring to the next level. So let's go pick another omen.
How can I help?
If this lands on intelligence, it could actually be really useful and give the ring even more value. Now, as you can see, we're directly targeting the last low modifier. We ended up with more rarity here. Not exactly worth the full investment, but it's still a decent outcome. And as I mentioned before, I went through this process more for the content's sake, just to show you how deep and interesting crafting can get. All right, let's go ahead and push the mana with some catalysts and see just how far we can take this ring. Oh, is that really? I will price this one later. Looks like we did something. Since this video is already getting a bit long, I'm going to speed up the next parts so we don't take too much of your time. One divine. Nope. Nope. Need some work. This one looks not bad. Let's take a look. Let's push more lightning here. We'll leave it for 5 now, and later revalidate. Let's get some fire here. One divine as well. This one has solid evasion, mana, some rarity, dexterity, and lightning resistance. Definitely looks usable. Let's push the mana here with catalysts. All right, let's open the sale for one divine and see if someone grabs it. Need some work. Nope. This one looks promising. Nice. We've got high flat physical damage, solid fire, dexterity, lightning, and cold resistances. The only downside here is the low life roll, but overall it's looking pretty solid. We may use the last omen we have here and replace the life. Let's reduce some light res and see how it goes here. Pretty nice. Let's replace the life mod here. Not the best result, I know, but shall we continue? Okay, we'll keep going. Let's see if we can hit something better.
How can I help?
Oh, baby, now we talking. That's a lot here. I will price it later. Bad suffixes. This needs some work. This looks cool one. Let's push the mana. Let's price it later. Nope. Nope. And that wraps up today's massive breach ring crafting session. I hope you found it helpful, entertaining, or at least a little bit chaotic in a good way. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me keep going with more content like this. And if you've got tips, questions, or even better crafting strategies, share them in the comments. I'm always checking them out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.